Hey everybody, so I just finished doing like a few readings and I figured let's talk a little bit about, I know it's Sagittarius season and I did some Saggy videos. However, I was supposed to do a Pluto video to coincide with Scorpio. I'm sorry, I'm just having some side thoughts. So, what did I want to talk about? Did I want to talk about Scorpio or Pluto? I think I wanted to go with Scorpio. So, yeah, because Jupiter is in Scorpio. So let me set up. So, where can I start with Scorpio? So, for one, we know that Scorpio has to do with death, dark places, underground, cemeteries, incisions, surgery. Scorpio can kind of like that energy. It's analysis, but on a whole nother level. Scorpio is naturally ruled by Pluto. Is actually the ancient ruler. Mars is the current ruler. And I'll come back in a separate video with the esoteric angle. But nevertheless, so what is Scorpio? Scorpio is a water sign. Actually, now that I think about it, I was going to do a video on elements, but since I started talking about Scorpio, let me just go in a little bit on Scorpio. So, when we have this water sign, it is a fixed water sign. So fixed, I feel like there is a certain, or from what I see and experience from fixed signs, more specifically Scorpio, they have a way that they're going to do things, and that's just the way it's going to be. That's the Scorpion energy. So it's sort of like, this is the way I do things, and if I don't like it, I'm going to remove myself from it. See, that fixed energy doesn't wait on anybody. Like, nah, it doesn't. So I'm going to talk about Scorpio as an energy because I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, like, one of the reasons why it's taken me a while to start this series is because I'm diving hella deep, and I don't want to just give you surface material. Nevertheless. So what we're going to say from here is, I'm not going to go in depth on the planets. We'll do that in the next video. I'm going to do the same for Sagittarius. Oh, excuse me. Oh, just hoping. I notice I can't put any time on these videos. But anyway. So what else is Scorpio? You know, I'm wondering with Scorpio, because they're so deep. It's sort of like they have this thing of like, they know what people want. They kind of know what people want. They know how to give it to them, but they're very selective in who they give it to, if that makes sense. And I think that they're very possessive of energy, and that's an interesting one. They're possessive of energy. Scorpio has this thing, I've said it before, where they're kind of just like, they want to test you to see, like, how brilliant are you? Are you brilliant enough to hang out with a Scorpio? The difference between the Scorpio, the Mars, because being that Mars is the current ruler, what happens is that Scorpio, I know I'm like using this wall for dear life. Scorpio will, get this. Scorpio will handle things on an inner level, and Aries does it on an outer. So whereas Aries is going to tell you about yourself and fucking follow through because they're pissed off, the Scorpio is like, yeah, all right, bitch, whatever. Watch this. They don't tell you. They just do. And that is that hidden underground sort of like, you know what Scorpio also has to do with when we talk about, because it has correlation to the eighth house. We'll talk about the eighth house in a separate video, but just think about it. If Scorpio's natural home is the eighth house, you can kind of think about it as the cemetery. You can think about it as the abyss of the sea. Um, I like how Dolo explains it, like when he says, because he was talking about Pisces. I think that they're kind of like out in the sea with nothing to hold on to. Like that shit is really funny. That's how it feels when you have Mercury in Pisces, though. But nevertheless, we're talking about Scorpio. I feel like, especially with Jupiter being in Scorpio right now, like the shit. And I always picture Jupiter like being like this big heavy sponge that's hopping in the water, and it's jumped in and it's slowly going down, but it's going fast at the same time, and it's going through the abyss, and it's going through the darkest parts of hell and the sea and through the cemetery, like through all that. So anyway, I'm saying all that to say, also you notice like Scorpios, they like these really dark, strange things. Not strange per se, but like they like cutting things open. They like popping pimples. They're those weirdos that, you know, you always see somebody who wants to pop somebody else's pimple. They have some sort of crazy heavy like Scorpio energy. They like to see oozy goozy things. They also will like, you know, people say that Scorpios are freaks, but I think they more so like to watch freaky stuff, and like not even like your normal freaky. Like Scorpio might just want to come into a room and watch you have sex. Like that is kind of strange. Scorpio will also sit and watch like a sex change. Not like sit physically, but like they find like those kinds of things really intriguing. It has to do with is underneath the surface. So when we're thinking about Scorpio, that's how, you know, you just really want to go, because Scorpio goes to the depths on you before you can even like, before you even get a chance to really realize that, like, the Scorpio has already said, the Scorpio has sized you up and created a test for you, like, before you even know it. Like, upon first meeting, when they decide that, okay, this person's cool enough, let me test their intelligence type shit. So, Scorpio has this place within where they can be, oh, wait, that's what I was saying, too, about Mars. So Scorpio being ruled by Mars, if you will. Scorpio is going to be more passive, and I did say that. Scorpio is going to be more passive in their approach, where the Aries is going to be more outward and more blatant with their approach. Okay, so what else about Scorpio? Scorpios, I think I had said, there's something about the Scorpios that make them very much so the chatterbox. Especially the female Scorpios. I watched them, and from like 1988, I had a best friend who is a Scorpio, and I believe she's got a Libra moon, but nevertheless, she was always a chatterbox, and I noticed that again, a fixed sign that is very much. The Scorpios are very much alike. These fixed signs are very much alike in how they do things. So, like I was saying in a group earlier over at Afro Astrology, I was like, me and my two homegirls, who happen to be, one is a Taurus ascendant, and we were talking about how Taurus men are always, and Taurus being the opposite of Scorpio. We were saying how Taurus men, and that would be the open enemy that would fall into Scorpio's seventh house. If we're opening up the lotus with Scorpio, as they say, you'd have Scorpio in the first, and you'd have Taurus in the seventh. So, what was it saying about Taurus? Oh, so how Taurus men are very much alike, very true to their sign. It's very true. And you happen to see a lot of like, it's like Taurus and Scorpio, though, are like the quintessential like opposing couple, like when it comes to the natal wheel, the astrological wheel. Um, so because you know what, the Scorpio can go beneath the surface of the Taurus. And the Taurus can appreciate that because the Scorpio will take their time for the most part. But you know what, I gotta look into deeper. The chatter, the what how is that house, how's that eighth house being aspected, and what makes them so chatty? Is it the Mars? Maybe it's where their Mercury is. Maybe like the ones that are more chatty. I want to say almost like, do they have like a Mercury in Sag situation going on? But nevertheless, so you'll see people with Sun in Scorpio. They're really good at a lot of different things because they absorb they have their water. So the water element. I should want to do an element video. I have all my notes for it. I just don't have it beside me. But when we have this water element, we're dealing with emotions. We're dealing with receptiveness. We're dealing with a conduit that is picking up energy or fluids or what have you, right? So what's happening there is the Scorpio can walk into a room, but see, the Scorpio has like that very stale kind of stoic face. They might crack a smile. Maybe they'll crack a smile if it's necessary. But they're just kind of like on a whole different wave. A totally different wave. They're just like, I can't even really put it into words about the Scorpio. But one thing we know about the Scorpio is that the Scorpio goes deep, and then it is the phoenix rising from the ashes. So it's got to have gone really deep. It's got to have fallen kind of far or fallen from grace to be so low that it's going to actually rise from its ashes. So, you know, in some instances, you can correlate Scorpio, because Scorpio is also related to Serket in ancient Egyptian culture, in ancient Kemetic culture. And Serket, you know how a lot of that is mixed up. But basically, Serket, like a lot of the ancient history, it can be mixed up. So Serket is basically, because you have Serket and then you have Isis, which it would seem like they're from two different dynasties, but for some reason they've been looped together, right? So basically, there's a woman, and I hope I'm telling this correctly. There's a woman who, like a legend of some sort, who, for whatever reason or set, I believe, was either staying at her house or had some reason to be in this woman's house, right? And I believe it was the woman's son